welcome to Authentic Voices. This is episode 2 of our series, The Identity Blueprint. We're going to discuss transformational intimacy. But what does it actually mean to have transformational intimacy? And how can you know that? We talk about that and we discuss that. What is transformational intimacy with the Father God in heaven? I hope this is a blessing to you. I hope this actually imparts some wisdom to you and just inspires you to know that you too can have a relationship with Father God in heaven that brings about transformational intimacy. God bless you.
So I want to go into a topic that I just love talking to you about. I had a lot of hits. I had a lot of people watching it. I'm going to post it later, but let's have a little chat about a topic that I know you love talking about, and that's transformational intimacy. What is transformational intimacy? Can we just go over that a little bit? Just talk a little bit about that. I know it's a topic you love to talk about. I know I love talking about it. What is transformational intimacy, Martin?
Man, no, I love talking about transformational intimacy.
I brought it up.
So it really is something that, again, we journey into. Once we begin to understand identity, then that gives us access, and I say gives us, but we've always had access to the Father. We give ourselves access to the Father. Because now that I feel accepted, now that I feel that it's okay, right, and I don't have to, be worried about getting into the throne room, I'm already there, right? Ephesians 2:6, I'm already in Christ, inside Christ, sit at the right hand of God the Father at the throne. Yep. And so once I have that, then I can actually spend time in intimacy with the Father. And as I spend that time with him, he begins to transform me. And it's almost like an osmosis, but he's actually not transforming me. And this is something that's really I've come into more recently, that he's not actually changing me. He's changing my belief system of who he's already made me to be. And that is a massive difference. Wow. But basically, it's the more time I spend in the Father, then the more he transforms me and does that work, right? And it's funny because it's not that, I don't have to do anything. No, my role is to come into the Father. And as I do that, as I hang out with him, spend time with him, then he transforms me through that intimacy. Yeah. And, we do a lot of deals where we take people into, initially we called it the garden because that's just where people went. But I see a lot of people go to a beach kind of a setting or just a meadow or a garden type setting. And we help them move into intimacy with the Father. And what's funny is when they begin to discover and have this encounter, most of the time, they're either just laying in the grass, literally laying in the grass, looking at the clouds, laying next to Jesus. And they're just looking at the clouds, like you do as a kid. I don't know if you ever did that. You lay in the grass, and you just look at the shapes in the clouds. And it's the most do nothing time. And everybody, when they first encounter this, they want to get up. They want to go do something for Jesus. And he's like, no, let's just lay here. Yeah. And it's the most awkward thing because you think, well, I'm in the presence of God. I need to do something. And all the Father wants to do is just be with you. Yeah. And it's this incredible transformation. And one lady that has come through the course, she had texted out to the group and said she had this incredible vision of the throne room. I mean, like just this massive deal, but there was this huge gate, this ancient gate, and she could peep through the keyhole of the gate and see into the throne room. And
Right.
as she's describing it, she's like, it was the most incredible thing. And essentially what she had was, when she could look through the keyhole, it
Uh-huh.
was almost like she got a bird's eye view of everything happening. And so she's describing how amazing, it's the most incredible experience that she had. But then she had a question. Why couldn't I get in? Right? Why did I have to look through the keyhole?
Oh, right.
And you see what just happened. Like, this is the most incredible supernatural experience she's had in her entire life. And it, bang, was gone because guilt and shame just came in. Right?
Mhm.
And so as we talked about this, I said, now remember, this is a journey. Let's go back and focus on the love that you encountered, the how incredible all this. And it pulled her out of this. And I said, just rest and ask the Father, why was I not able to come in? And so as she did that, 2-3 days later, she texts again. It's like, I got in, I was in his lap. And so it, instead of seeing this as, oh, I'm not supposed to come in because of there's something wrong with me, right? That's usually the question we're asking. It was a, no, this is maturing. I am growing and releasing. And so as she spent more time with the Father asking those questions, he revealed those lies that she was believing about herself
Wow.
and transformed her through that intimacy. And then she's now able to freely go in and just spend more and more and more time with the Father. And so that's really for me, where transformational intimacy comes into play, and why it's so important. Because as we encounter the Father and just spend time with the Father, not doing stuff
Yeah.
with the Father, he transforms us.
Yeah, that's so true.
And I will say, I mean, I see a lot of groups. We've got amazing ascension groups, and I love it. I think it's fantastic. But I think one of the challenges, I would say, is I think many of the ascension groups, especially if they're newer into ascending, which I'll just say is kind of an oxymoron. We actually don't ascend, right? Because if I have in my mindset I'm ascending, then I've just put separation between me and the Father and heaven.
Yep.
Because the truth is, heaven's inside me.
That's it.
Right. And so it's, I don't know what you call it. It's not descending because I'm not lowering. It's just, I don't know. It's like I just lean forward maybe. Right.
Yeah.
And I'm not, semantics are semantics, but I think it's important because I'm not ascending into the heavens.
Mm.
I'm actually just, I'm shifting dimensions, which I'm already in, and it's just being more aware of it.
Exactly.
But
Yeah.
my point was that I think we can run into some dangers, especially early on, because most of the ascension groups I've seen are focused on doing something. We're going to go transform the heavens. We've got a task that I believe in, and I'm going to go, man, I'm going to go crush it. I'm going to go transform this atmosphere. And those are good things, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when we look at what Jesus said, he said, I only do what I see the Father doing.
Yeah.
So if I come into an ascension with my agenda,
that's it.
Is that my agenda or is that the Father's? And so transformational intimacy really comes in to say, let's just go lay in the grass with Daddy for a bit.
Mm.
And then he'll open up. If I need an assignment, he'll bring that, right? But we struggle with that because it's, no, I need to go do something.
Yeah.
And the Father's like, just come on, kiddo, hang out with me. Let's just do nothing.
That's it.
And then a little bit of nothing, and now let's go play. I mean, that's how we do it as kids, right? We spend time doing nothing, and all of a sudden an adventure happens.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Praise God.
For me, that's that transformational intimacy. It's literally just intimacy with the Father.
Yeah.
And allowing his love, his presence to transform my belief system, that's what changes me completely.
Absolutely. So, well, I mean, I can only just back that up with a wonderful testimony. I mean, I was really at the stage of nearly burning out. I was doing the traditional pastor role, and everyone was relying on me for everything. And I've really nearly burnt out. And I kind of went before him, and he basically said to me, my yoke is easy, my burden is light. And basically, what he was showing me, what it really means to live from that place of rest, and what it really means to live from that place of identity. And I think one of the things that he began to show me was that he began to really reveal to me his heart, and he began to
Mm.
show me that if I will let him love me, if I will let him build this ministry, which we're talking on right now, that he was going to really show me, what he was capable of. That was just a private conversation that I had with him,
Mm.
and before I knew it, I mean, obviously it didn't happen instantly, but it kind of happened quickly. I ended up with my own personal assistant. I never had a personal assistant before. I then, began to put things together, and things just started to grow. And the amazing thing was, I didn't actually strive. I didn't actually get.
Mm.
There was no like performance orientation, and yet I've had days, man, where I've been like, if I'm honest, 12, 14-hour days. And I've had days when I've done nothing. It's just been like an interesting experience, just following, just letting him lead, just really just seeing, I'm like, even meeting yourself, that was all prompted by the Lord. That was all followed by the Lord. It's just every now and then I've kind of gotten in the way a little bit. And I like to think that the reason why it's grown, the reason why it's built, the reason why it's sort of where it is today is because I got a bit better at not getting way anymore. I you know what I mean? I because I know I'm loved, and because I know that who I am more, and because I understand at the end of the day that there are days when I just want to be with him. I just like talking to him. There are times when I just like being quiet and just even thinking about him. And there's like, a lot of people say to me, Martin, how do you get these encounters, Chris? How do you get these visions, Chris? I go, well, I don't actually look for them. I just look for him. I just like to talk to him, meditating on him.
Yeah.
Sometimes I just lie there and I just really enjoy listening to a worship song with him, because I know that doesn't sound religious, or that doesn't sound like, well, I'm calling heaven down or anything like that.
Right.
What I am doing, I'm focused on the fact that, well, heaven's already in me. And if that
Right.
heaven's already in me, that means the Lord must be there too with me. So it's just amazing how good life can be. I'm not saying it's not tough, but it's amazing how much joy you can have when you live from that place of knowing who you are, because you just are. I mean, my friend Carl, he said it to me. Sometimes we can get too caught up in trying to just be family, because that's been like the latest revelation that him and I have discussed.
Yeah.
I even got too caught up on that. We've got to meet this time. We've got to meet here. We've got to meet there. and I'm like, why am I doing this? Who am I trying to kid? What am I trying to prove? Can't we just be fellowship? Can't we just be sons and daughters of the living God and just be family? Why do we have to get caught up? And so what I'm trying to say is, you don't have to meet in a physical building each week to still make the same traps, to still make the same mistakes and get caught up in the same thing. And again, it's because you haven't really learnt how to just be and just sit, just rest, and just be with him, like you said. And that's where the transformation comes from. And the kind of stuff messes with my religious head, because I've been a Christian for well over 30 years. How did that now? Surely I've got to do something for you, Lord. There must be something you want me to do. And I figure, well, he'll let me know if there is. Until then, I'll just be. I'll just love him and he'll love me, right? You know what I mean? Doesn't have to be complex. It's not supposed to be. So
I think you said it wrecks our religious system.
It does.
And the truth is, the last 2 or 3 years for my family has probably been the most difficult of our time, and yet we've learned the deepest level of identity. And I've realized this. It's like I actually had to come out of the church system to heal my family. And that is, it breaks my heart to even say that, because I've been in the church system my entire life, and I've loved the church system, but I'm actually realizing there's some not so good things within the system of the church, not the church, right? Those are different, in my opinion. But I had to remove my entire family from the church system to heal. And we're just now
that's big.
beginning to heal, and it's funny. I was talking with my 16-year-old son just a couple of days ago, and just sharing some things I'm learning. And here's another thing that's interesting is that, as the father, I'm supposed to know all the answers, right? That's the religious system.
Yep.
And I realized that, you know what? I don't have all the answers. I'm wrestling through some sacred cows, and I was even wrestling through like the concept of original sin, right? Where did that come from? Where did the church start really getting into that? and the way I understand it. And a lot of it's from St. Augustine from many, many years ago. And you look at where he drove things, it was because he didn't have identity. And it was out of his own brokenness that this was a justification, right?
Yeah.
Because it justified why he couldn't overcome his sexual addiction, right? And so original sin, that's the answer. And so that's where we come. And so I'm talking to my 16-year-old about this. And
Okay.
I love him. And he's just like, yeah, Dad, I always thought that was stupid. It's just matter of fact, and because they've only grown up with me teaching identity and growing in identity. So to them, identity is just normal. It's nothing special.
Yeah.
And so what's funny is he was just like, oh, yeah, that I always thought that was stupid. I'm just like, okay, conversation's done. Nice job.
Yeah.
I learned from my son the truth of that, right? And it was because I didn't have to have all the answers, and I can actually openly wrestle through some of these things with my kids and my family. And what it does, I'm discovering, it's the same questions I had when I was that age. You probably had when you were that age, and you were never allowed to discuss or ask because is there something wrong with me that I have these questions?
Yeah.
And what it does is it opens us up to the conversation, which then allows me and hopefully my family to be able to have those conversations with God the Father as well, which is where I really grow and learn and not be ashamed that I have those questions or doubts or whatever that may be. And I'm wrestling through that, and so that's, again, I think just deeper for me. And this is the last several weeks that the Father is showing me, son, I don't need you to have all the answers. I just want the conversation. I want the intimacy with you, which is really what that is. And it's like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm still learning, still maturing. And it's good, man, because it releases us. And just like the trap you'd fallen into, which I fall into as well, being the pastor, which means I have to know all the answers, do all the right things, and all that. And it's like, actually, I don't. All we got to do is just go hang out with the Father. And
the sad irony of it all is, Martin, you don't end up empowering the people you think you're empowering by being that kind of pastor. And that was the biggest learning curve for me. I was very passionate. No, I was very controlling about not being controlling. I mean, I didn't even see it. That's how, and the very people I love the most, the very people that I wanted to see come into their own voice, their own expression, their own identity. To some extent, I was hindering that because I was not like I had to be the one with all the answers. I felt like I had to be the one, almost like I hope you understand the term, like I was the wise sage and everyone must listen to Chris. I had no idea I was even doing that. And when I realized this is not sustainable, I can't keep doing this. I've got my own journey, and I think probably one of the things that really got my attention, Martin, was I was crying out to the Lord about where things were going, how things were a little bit stuck in a certain area, and I just felt the Lord really speak to my heart really clearly, and He said, "Son, when will you expect those people to stop being your clones?" And I went, my mouth just opened like that. I was talking about the people on my board and my leadership. We're all equal team members. I don't mean I'm above them or anything like that. And I'm like, and I couldn't speak, and it wasn't a condemning thing. It was a sincere, question from the Father. He wasn't having a go at me. He was just asking me a question. When are you going to stop expecting them to be your clones? And I went, oh, wow, Lord, I really have been doing that, haven't I? And I actually confessed that to them and asked for them to forgive me. Yeah. And I also said to them, I'm resigning. And they looked at me. I'm resigning as your traditional pastor. I see you guys as equals. I see you guys as team members. I see you guys as leaders. Yeah. I believe the Lord wants me to focus on the media side of things. What would you guys like to focus on? And just having that open, honest, vulnerable conversation with the people that I love and respect as my leaders has opened up new things. It's allowed them to grow. And I think that's probably one of the problems that the fivefold have. They get so caught up in their offices. They get so caught up in functioning in that and forming their identity from that. They end up becoming the antithesis of what they really want to be. I really genuinely believe there's a lot of 5-4 ministers out there that would love to see people equipped for the ministry. But what they don't realize they're doing is they're actually depowering everyone, because people end up thinking that they've got the answer, so I better go to them. And they get thinking, well, I better keep coughing up the answers. And I did that. And I have empathy and I have compassion for apostles, prophets, people who function in roles as full-time ministers. I really do, because I understand how easy it is to get caught in that trap. And you end up getting frustrated and you think people don't want to do anything. It's because you haven't really got out of your own way long enough for God to show you, well, I want you to be this because this is who you are. I want you to, and then and that, it's like as you come into that realization that I can just be Chris Boys, I know I'm loved as Chris Boys, then I can just go, so you want me to do the media thing? Cool. Okay, guys, I'm going to basically do the media thing. We're all going to take turns of who's going to have house fellowship. We're all going to take, and I mean, I know it might seem like a little thing, but it's a big thing.
It's huge.
You know?
It's massive.
And that's the thing that God taught me. You don't have to have a church of 200 people to make the same mistakes.
Right.
It's got nothing to do with numbers and size. And that's the same thing, right? You don't have to actually be going to a physical building every week. Just that was what the Lord taught. That was what the Lord taught me. You know, a home church can make the same mistakes as a big church building can, because we're people, right?
Well, and it goes back to Chris. It goes back to identity, right? Because if you're the prophet, right, or the apostle, and that's your role, anything that threatens that role, you're going to attack, right? And if you don't have identity, then that is your identity. So if you begin to lose that, or it gets threatened, or you feel like it's getting threatened, you're going to defend. And that's why, I start with identity, because if you miss that foundation, you can be an incredible prophet. And I've seen unbelievable prophets that are like, wow, that's incredible, just deadly accurate and all those things. But their identity is that role. And man, you get them a little bit threatened, and boy, that's why, honestly, I think that's why a lot of these prophets are so salty, meaning they'll just whack you if you get out of line, because that is their identity. And like I said, I think to your point, I think the fivefold is incredible, but we have the fivefold inside of us, right?
And we've talked about that before,
and I think that's the key of it, is that, man, learning to rest, like you're saying, and learning to let go. Because on a lot of the folks that I teach and work with, they have incredible events. I mean, I'm watching this group that I've been teaching with, and I'm blown away by the diversity of things that they're doing. And they have access to groups that I don't have access to, just because sometimes it's on ethnic backgrounds or just where you grew up. I don't have credibility in some of those spaces, and they have to go do that. And so and I tell them this because initially they would get upset. They'll go do these amazing events where they're going to pray and prophesy and heal, and I purposely won't go.
Right.
And initially they were upset because what I saw was that it was like suddenly it validated that event. If I go as like the pastor, the teacher, right? Then it's like it validates that event as important. And when I told them, like, guys, number one, you don't need me. And if I go, then you all are going to take a back seat and you're going to wait for me to do it.
That's it.
And then you don't really grow in it. And so once I think they kind of understood that, man, they go, I'm blown away. So they're coming back and telling me these reports of what's happening. I'm like, man, that is incredible. I mean, God is powerfully moving. And I'll remind him, and I didn't go, right? This is your identity. This is you in the Father working through this. And I think that's important, because just like you said, that we feel like we have to go and do it all. But if we can take that back seat a lot of times, train them, teach them, prepare them, but then let them go and do it, then we as a body will accomplish far more than if I need to be the one and have all the control. And you know what? They're going to mess up. They're going to do some things wrong.
Yep. Yep.
That's okay.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I still remember one of the early conversations we had, and I just loved it when you first got together. I don't know if you were called the Flying Penguins at this stage, but I remember there was a time when you said that there was one particular week where you weren't the guy bringing the word, and there was another guy I can't remember. You almost called it like musical chairs. It's like God changing things around, and I just loved because the Lord was showing you, in those early days that, your identity is not in the gift, your identity is not in the calling and the function. And that's the thing that, because I've actually got a guy that I really respect that's kind of grown in this area and, in terms of this. And one of the things he said to me is, Chris, when you're actually meeting together with, with people and you're doing fellowship, don't be scared of silence. And I looked at him because I talked to him like on a Zoom session. I think, I don't know what you mean. He says, look, just because you've got the word doesn't mean someone else can't have it. Just because the Lord's speaking to you doesn't mean God can't speak to someone else. Just be quiet, sit on it.
Yeah.
And I started to do that, because I don't feel like I have to be the one bringing forth, talking, doing the whole thing. And, that wasn't easy for me initially, but I think that it's really important because, and one of the things we did talk about as well is that, like we talk about the fivefold again, and I've shared that with you, everyone can build something new. Every one of us can hear from the Lord and bring forth a word. There's the prophet right there. Every one of us can actually love like a pastor, especially to someone we've actually recently just met. Every one of us can tell someone about Jesus.
Right.
I think you know where I'm going with this. The Lord can give us something that he's taught us that we've walked in and we're actually more mature in that. We can talk to someone else about that. How the Lord set me free from addiction, for example. Well, that's kind of like a teaching thing. So that's what I think it kind of humbles you if you are someone who functions in the office of prophet and of apostle, when you take this perspective, when you realize this. And one of the things that I said was Jesus was kind of all five. He was God in flesh. He was the Lord. And last time I checked, he actually put, a towel around his waist and he actually washed his disciples' feet. So that kind of puts it in perspective. You're not meant to be seen and heard. You're not meant to have the spotlight with the fivefold. You're meant to serve and love and see those you do love come forth. Like one of my favorite scriptures from the Apostle Paul, Martin, Jesus in you, the hope of glory. Like that was his whole focus as a father. He just wanted to see Jesus come through in you. That's what he really, really wanted to see. And I believe that's true of all the fivefold. I mean, every time I read the epistles of John, I see this love come through, this father come through. I just want you guys to know who you are. That's why he kept calling little children. Just to him, that's who they were. And that was a powerful revelation the Lord gave to me when he showed this to me, because I actually recorded a podcast on it. It's called Become as Little Children, the core of who you really are, because that's who we really are. That's the core of who we really are, and the reason why it says enter the kingdom, it's not like it's some mystical thing where if I become like a little kid, suddenly there's the kingdom. It's not what it means. It means it's a maturing, it's a journey, it's a growing. And look at the qualities of children. I love listening to children laugh. I never get sick of it. I just love it. And with a child, like when your kids were little, they knew their dad had it. They just know he's got it. Dad's got it. That's it. And you just think of those qualities and you just think about, what it means. That's who you really are. Before crap got in the way, before life got in the way, before people started imprinting expectations on you, like you should do this, you should do that. That's who you really are.